friend of mine used to pee every time she got scared, not a little. Full bladder release. It happened during university exams, during a minor car accident, during a fight with her boyfriend. She thought it was just a weak bladder. Her doctor told her to do Kegels. She did them for 2 years. Nothing changed. It was embarrassing. She stopped going to movie theaters. Too many jump scares. She stopped drinking water before long meetings. She planned her routes around public restrooms. Her life was shrinking, one bathroom at a time. Then a Chinese medicine practitioner asked her one question. What were you afraid of before this started? She stopped, thought about it. Then she started crying. Her father had died 2 years before the first episode. She never processed it. She told everyone she was fine. She went back to work the week after the funeral. She didn't cry at the service. She was too busy making sure everyone else was okay. Her body stored it in her kidneys. That's the episode today. Emotions and organs, the 5 addresses of the soul, and why your body has been carrying things your mind thought it let go of a long time ago. Hey friends, this is East and Inner. I'm Ollie, just me talking to you, and I want to tell you about another patient too, a student of Chinese medicine I met during my own studies. Different story. Same organ, same emotion, different door it took to get in. But before I get there, I need to tell you something that sounds crazy if you grew up with Western medicine. I'm going to say something now that will sound strange, even to people who already know a little Chinese medicine. Every emotion has an address, not a metaphor, not a nice poetic way of saying your feelings affect your health, an actual physical anatomical address, a specific organ, a specific channel, a specific set of symptoms that appear in predictable, repeatable patterns. Joy lives in the heart, anger in the liver, worry in the spleen, grief in the lungs, and fear, deep, chronic background fear. Fear lives in the kidneys. This is the 5-element framework, the second oldest complete system of mind-body medicine on Earth, written down almost 2,000 years ago in the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine. It was not written by one person. It's a compiled text, conversations between the Yellow Emperor and his physician, collected over generations. And buried in those conversations is something that modern psychiatry is only now beginning to rediscover. The body and mind are not separate systems. They are the same system described from 2 different angles. Here's how they thought about it. Bear with me. Even I had to hear this 3 times before it clicked. The 5 elements are a complete map. Wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Each has a season, an organ, and an emotion. Wood is spring and the liver, holding anger. Fire is summer and the heart, holding joy. Earth is late summer and the spleen holding worry. Metal is autumn and the lungs holding grief. And water, winter, is the kidney. Its emotion is fear. Now let me sit with water for a moment because this is the one that changed how I understand myself. Water is depth, storage, what lies beneath the surface. The kidney is the water organ, not just filtering blood, but the root, the battery, the deepest reservoir you have. It stores your jing, your constitutional endowment, the energy you were born with. You can't make more. You can only protect it. And fear, deep chronic fear, consumes it. Not the jump scare fear from a movie, not the fear of giving a speech. The deep fear, the fear that doesn't have a name, the fear you've lived with so long you stopped noticing it was there. You just thought it was your personality. Financial insecurity that's been there since childhood, an unstable relationship where you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. A parent who's aging and you can't bear to think about it. Your own body failing in ways you don't understand. The quiet terror that life is passing you by and you're not doing what you came here to do. That kind of fear, the chronic background, always there kind, that's what the kidney holds. And here's the terrible genius of this system. It's a loop. Fear drains kidney energy. When kidney energy is depleted, you become more susceptible to fear. More fear drains more kidney energy, round and round for years, for decades, until you don't even remember what it felt like to not be afraid. You just think this is what life feels like. The Chinese character for fear, Kong, says it all. The bottom component means heart, but the top component is a picture of two hands holding something up, something heavy, something that's about to fall and crush you. Fear, in this ancient understanding, is not just a feeling, it's a weight, a burden, a physical thing that lives in a specific place in the body. And when the kidney is full of that weight, strange things start happening. Things that make no sense if you think of kidneys as just filters for blood. Your lower back aches for no reason. You feel cold all the time, especially in your knees and feet, like the cold is coming from inside your bones. You wake up tired, even after 8 hours. Your hearing gets worse. There's a direct connection between the kidney channel and the ears. Your hair starts thinning earlier than it should. Your teeth feel loose. You get up to pee 2-3 times a night. Because the kidney controls the lower orifices, including the bladder, your libido disappears. And the one that always surprises people, you lose your will. Not your willpower, not your ability to force yourself to do things, your will. The deep, mysterious, pre-logical force that makes you get up in the morning and want to keep going. In Chinese medicine, this is called zi, sometimes translated as will, sometimes as purpose, sometimes as the drive to exist. It is stored in the kidney. When your zi is strong, you feel like you can handle anything. When your zi is weak, even small things feel overwhelming. You don't want to die, but you don't especially want to live either. You're just existing, going through the motions, waiting for something, though you don't know what. That's depleted kidney energy. That's fear that's been living in your body so long. It's become the architecture of your life. I learned this the hard way. About 10 years ago, I went through a period where everything felt heavy, not depressed, at least not in a way I would have called depression at the time. Just drained, like someone had turned down the volume on life, the saturation on everything. Colors looked flatter. Food tasted less interesting. Music that used to move me just sounded like noise. I was sleeping but never rested. And I was afraid, not of anything specific, just afraid. Like a low hum in the background of every moment. When the phone rang, my first thought was that someone had died. When my partner was 5 minutes late, I assumed an accident. I lived with a constant, formless dread that I had learned to function around. The way you learn to sleep next to a highway. Eventually, you stop hearing the trucks. I went to a Western doctor. Blood tests came back normal. Thyroid fine. Vitamin D fine. Probably stress, he said. Try to relax. But I wasn't stressed. I wasn't anything. That was the problem. Then a friend, the same one who first told me about Chinese medicine years earlier, looked at me from across a dinner table and said, "You look like someone whose kidney energy is exhausted." I laughed. My kidneys were fine. I'd just had them tested. The lab report said everything was in range. "No," she said, "not your kidneys. Your kidney." And she listed my symptoms. Symptoms I hadn't told her about. Lower back pain. Cold feet at night. Waking up at 3 a.m. for no reason. The fear, the heavy, nameless fear that I'd stopped noticing because it had been there so long it felt like weather. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Because it's all in the books," she said. "Every one of those symptoms has been described for 2,000 years. You're not a mystery. You're a textbook case." That was the beginning of a year-long research project. I read the old texts, the Shanghan Lun, the Huangdi Neijing, Qing Dynasty case studies, and the same thing kept appearing. Fear lives in the kidney. Fear consumes the kidney. The kidney, when depleted, generates more fear. Round and round. Let me tell you about that student I mentioned earlier. She had severe anxiety, panic attacks multiple times a week, racing heart, sweating, the feeling that she was about to die. The full clinical presentation. She'd been on medication for years. It helped. It took the edge off. But she never felt normal. She just felt dampened. Like someone had put a heavy blanket over her entire emotional life. Her teacher, an older Chinese doctor who'd been practicing for 40 years, took her pulse. Not the Western pulse of beats per minute, The Chinese pulse, 28 different qualities distributed across 6 positions, 3 on each wrist, each corresponding to a different organ system. He held her wrist for almost a minute. Then he looked at her and said, "Your kidney pulse is very deep and very weak. You have been afraid for a very long time." She started crying. Not because he was right. She already knew she was afraid. Because someone had finally named it. Someone had finally told her that the fear wasn't a character flaw. It wasn't weak will. It was a physiological pattern that could be treated. She started a kidney nourishing protocol, acupuncture on kidney channel points, Ki3, the great ravine point near the inner ankle, which is the source point of the kidney channel. Ki7, the recovering flow point, which regulates water metabolism. Bl23, the kidney transport point on the lower back. Warming herbs, not spicy herbs, not hot peppers or ginger. Deeply warming, downward directing herbs. Rao Gui, cinnamon bark, which warms the kidney yang and draws the floating heat back down. Seafood tea, prepared aconite. Yes, aconite, and yes, it's toxic when unprepared, which is why it's always processed and prescribed in tiny doses by licensed practitioners. Herbs that don't just warm the surface, but go to the deepest, coldest layer of the body. Dietary changes. No cold food, no raw salads, no ice water. Everything cooked, everything warm. Congee for breakfast. Bone broth with goji berries. Black beans. Black is the color of the water element, and black foods nourish the kidney. Lifestyle changes. Going to bed before 11 p.m. because the kidney's energy is at its lowest between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the Chinese body clock, and those hours of sleep count double. Warm foot soaks before bed. Thick socks to sleep in. The kidney channel starts in the sole of the foot at the bubbling spring point. Yongquan. Ki1, cold enters through the feet and travels straight up the channel to the kidney. Warm the feet, you're warming the kidney. Small things, simple things, nothing revolutionary. After 3 months, her panic attacks had decreased by more than half. After 6 months, she was off her medication, with her doctor's supervision. Not because someone talked her out of being anxious. Not because she worked through her childhood trauma in therapy. Because her body was no longer in a state that produced anxiety. The fear didn't disappear, but it got smaller, quieter, more distant, like a storm that had moved offshore. Still visible on the horizon, but no longer raining on her house. Now, I need to say something important here. You've probably noticed I keep pausing to say this, but I do think there's something profoundly valuable in this ancient framework that modern medicine misses. Emotions have a physical address. They live somewhere in the body. And sometimes healing the address heals the emotion. Modern medicine treats the brain like a standalone processor. Adjust the serotonin, adjust the dopamine. But what if the brain is part of a network? What if the organs, the fascia, the immune system, the gut, all of it is one system? That's what Chinese medicine has been saying for 2,000 years. Not in the language of neuroscience, in the language of qi, of meridians, of organ systems, and 5 elements. But the underlying insight is the same. The body and mind are not separate. They are one system, and you can't heal one without the other. Here's the full map. Let me give it to you so you have it, because once you see it, you start noticing the connections everywhere. 5 emotions, 5 organs, anger, liver. This is probably the one people know best. The person who's always on edge, who flies into rages over small things, whose jaw is tight even when they're allegedly relaxing. The liver is the general. It plans, it strategizes, it moves energy in all directions. When it's obstructed, the energy backs up. Heat builds, pressure builds, the person becomes irritable, explosive, or, in the pattern that's harder to spot, deeply resentful and passive-aggressive. The anger never gets expressed, so it turns inward and becomes depression. Joy, heart. And this one always surprises people. Joy is good, right? Yes, balanced joy. But excessive, manic, ungrounded joy, that's a heart imbalance. The heart is the emperor. It needs to be calm and centered to rule effectively. When it's overstimulated, you get scattered thinking, insomnia, talking too fast, saying things you regret, the feeling that your mind is a radio that can't settle on one station. Too much excitement, too much stimulation, too much joy that has no container. That's a heart that needs calming. Worry, spleen, the overthinker, the person who replays conversations from 3 days ago at 2 a.m., who worries about things that haven't happened and probably won't happen, whose mind is a committee that never adjourns. The spleen transforms food into energy. When it's exhausted, often by irregular eating, by cold and raw foods, by eating while stressed, it can't do its job. The energy it should be making gets turned into mental static instead. Worry, rumination, obsessive thinking. That's spleen chi stagnation. Grief. Lungs. This one hits hard because we've all felt it. How many people, after losing someone they love, develop a chronic cough, a tightness in the chest, catch every cold that goes around for the next year? The lungs govern Wei Qi, the defensive energy that circulates at the surface of the body. Grief weakens the lungs. Weakened lungs can't maintain the defensive barrier, and the body becomes vulnerable to pathogens, yes, but also to the next wave of grief, because the container that was supposed to hold it has become porous. Kidney. We've spent most of this episode here, but to complete the circle, the kidney is the root. It's the organ that gives every other organ its foundation. When the kidney is strong, the whole system has ballast. When the kidney is depleted by chronic fear, everything else starts to wobble. The heart can't stay calm. The liver can't move smoothly. The spleen can't transform. The lungs can't defend. Treat the kidney and you're treating the foundation. Here's the beautiful thing. Once you know this map, once you start seeing the connections between your emotions and your body, your own life starts making sense in a way it never did before. That lower back pain that started after a bad breakup, that's not a coincidence. It's your kidney grieving the loss of safety, of partnership, of the future you thought you'd have. That shoulder tension that never goes away, no matter how many massages you get. Your liver holding on to anger you never expressed. Anger at a boss, at a parent, at yourself for staying in situations that hurt you. That cough that won't clear up 6 months after your mother died. Your lungs still holding the grief, still trying to exhale something that's too big to let go of all at once. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk, the modern trauma researcher, famously wrote. But Chinese medicine knew this 2,000 years before anyone in the West said it out loud. And they didn't just know it, they built an entire medical system around it. Let me end with something practical. If you recognize yourself in any of this, if you suspect your kidney has been carrying fear for a long time, there are things you can do tonight. Simple things, free things, things that don't require a doctor or a prescription or a diagnosis. First, go to bed before 11 p.m. That's not a joke. In the Chinese body clock, the body's energy cycles through the 12 main channels over 24 hours. The kidney's time, when its energy is at its lowest and needs rest the most, is between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. But practically, the deep restorative work happens between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. when the gallbladder channel is active and the body is doing its deepest repair work. Every hour of sleep before midnight counts double for kidney recovery. This is not folk wisdom. It's the result of 2,000 years of clinical observation of what actually restores depleted people. Second, warm your feet before bed. Hot water soak, 5 minutes, 10 if you have time. The kidney channel starts at the bubbling spring point, Yongquan Ki1, in the center of the sole of the foot. Cold enters through the feet and travels directly up the kidney channel. Warm the feet before sleep and you're sending warmth straight to the kidney. Third, eat something warm for breakfast. Congee, oatmeal, scrambled eggs, soup, not a smoothie, not cold cereal, not yogurt, straight from the fridge. The spleen and stomach, the digestive fire, wake up slowly. Dousing them with cold first thing in the morning forces the kidney to send its precious energy upward to warm the digestive system. Over time, this depletes the kidney. Breakfast sets the tone for the whole day's energy. Make it warm. These are small things, nothing revolutionary, but they're the same things that Chinese doctors have been telling patients for 2 millennia. And they work, not because they're magic, but because they align with how the body actually functions. Next time, I want to talk about the liver in a way that might change how you think about anger forever. Not anger management, not just let it go, not breathe and count to 10. The liver sees anger differently. It sees it as a form of energy that got misdirected, like water that was supposed to flow into a river but got dammed up and flooded a field instead. The goal isn't to stop the water. The goal is to reopen the channel. I'll tell you what happens when the dam finally breaks and why the healthiest people I know are also the ones who get angry without apology. Not because they're out of control, because they're not afraid of what their own energy is trying to tell them. Until then, go to bed early, put on some socks. And the next time you feel afraid for no reason, consider the possibility that it's not in your head. It might be in your kidneys. Thanks for listening. This was East and Inner. If this connected with you, join us on Apple Podcasts. Just search East and Inner, full articles at tcmway.net. This podcast is for educational purposes only, not medical advice. Please consult your doctor before making any health changes. Talk to you next time.